Of course, the fear of failure isn't just one thing. It's a complex web of interconnected fears and beliefs. It's often not about the failure itself, but what we believe failure means about us. Here's a breakdown of what the biggest fear of failure often boils down to, the psychology behind it, and how to manage it. The core fear, what failure represents. For most people, the biggest fear isn't the act of failing, but the perceived consequences and the story they tell themselves about it. The ultimate fear is often the fear that failure is a final, unchangeable judgment on your worth, ability, or identity. This core fear, then, branches out into several specific, powerful anxieties. One, fear of judgment and shame. This is the social component. We are hardwired to want to belong. What it sounds like: what will people think of me? They'll see I'm a fraud, I'll be humiliated. The underlying belief: my value is determined by my successes and the approval of others. 2. Fear of wasted time, energy, and resources. This is the practical fear. What it sounds like: I've invested so much into this. If I fail, it will all have been for nothing. The underlying belief: my efforts are only valuable if they lead to success. 3. Fear of disappointing others. This is especially powerful for people who feel responsible for the hopes of parents, partners, children, or mentors. What it sounds like: I can't let them down, they've sacrificed so much for me. The underlying belief: my loved ones' happiness and pride are dependent on my performance. 4. Fear of confirming your own self-doubts, imposter syndrome. This is often the most paralyzing one because it's internal. What it sounds like: if I fail, it proves what I've always suspected, that I'm not smart, talented, good enough. The underlying belief: my success so far has been a fluke, and failure will reveal my true, inadequate self. 5. Fear of lost opportunities. The idea that a single failure will permanently close doors. What it sounds like: if I mess this up, I'll never get another chance. My dream is over. The underlying belief: life offers very few chances, and there is no room for recovery. The psychology, why we feel this way. This fear isn't irrational. It's often rooted in our past. Childhood experiences. Growing up in an environment where love or praise was conditional on achievement, e.g., A's get hugs, C's get criticism. Societal pressure. We live in a culture that often glorifies success and hides the messy, failed process behind it. The brain's wiring. Our brains are designed to avoid threat. Failure can feel like a social threat, exclusion from the tribe, which our brain treats with the same urgency as a physical threat. How to manage the fear of failure. The goal isn't to eliminate the fear, but to manage it so it doesn't control you. 1. Reframe what failure means. This is the most powerful step. Change the story. Failure as data. Every failure is an experiment that gives you data. It's not a no, it's a not this way. What did you learn? Failure as a step. Thomas Edison famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Each failure was a necessary step to the final success. 2. Focus on process, not outcome. You can't always control the outcome, but you can control your effort, preparation, and attitude. Ask yourself, did I give it my best shot? Did I follow my plan? If the answer is yes, you have already succeeded in the part you control. 3. Practice self-compassion. Talk to yourself like you would talk to a good friend who failed. Would you tell them they are a worthless fraud? Or would you say, "That's really tough. I'm sorry it didn't work out. What did you learn? How can you try again?" Research shows that self-compassion is a far greater motivator for future success than self-criticism. 4. What's the worst that can happen? And then what? Get rational about the consequences. If I fail this exam, then what? I might have to retake the class. And then what? It might delay my graduation by a semester. And then what? I'll still graduate and get a job, just on a slightly different timeline. This exercise shrinks the catastrophic thinking down to a manageable, often temporary, setback. 5. Look at examples of successful failures. Almost every hugely successful person has a resume full of failures. J.K. Rowling was a divorced, unemployed single mother on welfare before Harry Potter was published, and it was rejected by 12 publishers. Steve Jobs was fired from the company he started. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. Their failure was not the end of their story. It was a pivotal chapter. Final thought. The biggest fear of failure is the story we attach to it. When you change the story from failure equals I am a failure to failure equals I am learning and growing, you disarm the fear. It transforms from a monster in the closet into a tough but valuable teacher. The only true failure is the failure to try at all, because that is where hope and potential go to die.